Sounds good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Into the Mythica conference, where we are exploring wisdom and secrets from our primordial past. For this conference, we are bringing together a diverse and visionary collective of speakers who will guide us to open up our most ancient stories so that we can explore, honor, reawaken, and remember who we truly are at this extremely powerful time on our beautiful, sacred planet. I am Jocelyn Starfeather, your host and the creator of this event, and I am truly honored today to be speaking with Getrude Matshe. Welcome, Getrude. Thank you so much for being a part of this event.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here.
Wonderful to have you here. And let me just introduce you to everybody in case they are not familiar with your work already. Getrude is an inspirational speaker who has been described as a vibrant bundle of African energy whose zest and passion for life inspires everyone she meets. She is passionate about helping people achieve their full potential and find their individual life purpose. She is passionate about individuals' success. This makes her an energetic, inspirational, and enlightening speaker. Getrude has written several books and is now a book writing coach. Her speaking career started in Norway in 1989, and for 12 years, she has worked in the IT industry as a systems analyst, systems support manager, and project manager. Getrude immigrated to New Zealand in 2001 with nothing and is now the director of several successful companies. She started Medical Recruiters of New Zealand Limited, as well as GM Global Investments Limited. And she formed Zim Ziani, a talent agency catering for the film and advertising industry that has been instrumental in supplying ethnic extras for prominent movies such as Peter Jackson's King Kong and James Cameron's Avatar. She is the founder and CEO of Africa Supporting HIV Orphans in Zimbabwe. She formed Walk on the Wild Side Tours, a symbiotic tourism company. She is the founder and global curator of Her Story Circle movement, and she is the mother of three, an African storyteller, poet, artist, and published author. She is also a scriptwriter and an independent filmmaker. And Getrude, I'm just so inspired by all of your creations and accomplishments. So yeah, thank you for bringing that beautiful energy into our conference here.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Yes. So your topic for today is Ubuntu, an ancient African philosophy. So could you begin by sharing with us, what is Ubuntu?
Ubuntu is an African philosophy which literally translated Ubuntu, Ngamuntu, Ngawantu says a person is only a person through other people. It is our way of expressing the condition of being human. That humanity is one, there is no you, there is no me, there's only we. And the way my grandmother used to describe it when I was little, she would say, imagine that the human race is like the human body. And if you cut your finger and you start to bleed, your white blood cells will rush to that point to heal it. In a week's time, you can't even see the scar. So we are cells of the same organism. We are so intertwined, there's really no separation between us. And our perceived differences in terms of skin color and race and ethnicity is only skin deep. And I think it's really fascinating that I have the opportunity to share this philosophy at this moment in time because of what's happening in the world with COVID. COVID is a very good illustration of what this philosophy means. Right now, if one person in the world is not okay, we are all not okay. This pandemic is affecting all of us. Countries have had to lock down. We're literally a breath away from affecting and infecting each other. So that's the Ubuntu philosophy, and it's really exciting for me to be able to position it in terms of what's happening in the world to illustrate what it really means, and just to remind people of that fact that we need to be looking out for each other right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is such a powerful and important message for us right now, because people are also, in the way we're kind of carrying things out, very divided, right? Over so many different things. And in the US here where I am, for example, it's highly politicized, which is just, it's just insane. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to politicize something that's really a health issue where we need to all be in it together. So this just feels like such an important message for us right now.
It feels like the universe, God, the creator has given us pause. We are being forced to stop. I mean, we've literally been ground to a halt. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. People are being forced to face their situations at home. So it starts at home first, and then it extends to our communities, and it extends to the rest of the world. So it's as simple as just remembering to look to your left or look to the right of your house and say hello to a neighbor. And really tune into who they are and find out how they are. Are they feeling okay? Is there anything you can do to help them? I think that's where it starts. You know, I've lived in New Zealand for 21 years. And growing up in Africa, Ubuntu is a way of living. I couldn't explain it until I left because I lived in a street with over 50 families. I knew every single household by name, including uncles, aunts, grandmothers, grandfathers of all of those households. And then I left Africa. I moved to London for the first time. I'm living in New Zealand. And I've lived in societies where people don't look you in the eye and say hello. In Africa, you will never bump into another human being and not acknowledge their presence, even if it's just a nod and a greeting. And so when COVID happened, my neighbors, and I've lived in the street for 21 years, a few houses away from us, they came and dropped letters in everybody's letterbox saying, "Hi, my name is David. My wife is Mary. We just want to introduce ourselves to you in case you need help. If you need us to pick up your groceries or a medical script, this is our cell phone number." And that couple literally united the entire street. It's just the most beautiful thing to watch. We've now got a Facebook group where everybody's connecting. And I discovered that there is a lady who lives about 7 houses away from my house. This woman is disabled. She's in a wheelchair. She has 2 little kids. And because of COVID, she can't bring anyone into her home to help care for the children. So I offered to read African stories to her little 5-year-old every day. So she will put him on Zoom and I will create stories and just entertain him for an hour and she can just rest. You know, so it's as simple as that. It's not big things that we need right now.
That's so beautiful. Both of those stories, really, the letters in the mailboxes and then this, reading to the little child on Zoom so she can take a break. And there are these very small things that we can do for each other that will make a huge world of difference. Now, so for people who are in a place, again, like, you know, me here in the US, that this is, it's very outside of the zone of what we're used to doing, you know, it really is. Like you said, so many places where people don't even look each other in the eye and say hello when you pass. So what do you recommend for starting this as a new way in the neighborhood or in the community?
To install the Ubuntu philosophy is very, very simple. You put your family first. Are you really paying attention to your husband, to your wife, to your partner? And really tuning into what they need. It extends to your family, your children, your parents. You know, I lost my mom last year in April. And not being able to go back to Africa for her funeral was the most difficult thing I have ever had to experience. So I went back and I looked at the photographs of the last time I was with my mom. She was ill at the time. I'd gone back home to Africa for 4 months to care for her. And when I got there, she couldn't walk. She couldn't even stand in the shower. And I would walk with her every day to the gate and take pictures. And I was taking the pictures to see if I was making any progress. Do you know, I took 3,000 photographs of my mother before she died. I've got over 250 little videos of times when she was feeling well and she was joking and laughing. And I documented the last months of my mother's life, 6 months before she died. So it's as simple as that, really tuning in, and then see if you can extend it to your neighborhood, to your community, the people who are in the street that you live in, just checking in on people. And it could be as simple as smiling at a stranger in a supermarket. I remember shortly after my mother died, I was in a grocery store buying vegetables. And this woman walked up to me and said, "Hello, how are you? Are you okay?" And I don't even know why she said it. And I was actually thinking of my mother at the time, and I had a breakdown in a supermarket because the stranger tuned into me. And she must have seen my sadness. I don't know. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so sorry for the loss of your mother. Yeah. And what a beautiful act of kindness. And I think we all have this as a natural intuition to tune into each other, right? And we're definitely not using it to the extent that we're meant to, right? So just thinking of how we can bring that into every moment is really, really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, when I look back at the last pandemic, this is my second pandemic. So I grew up in Africa in the 80s, watching family members dying. My grandmother had 11 children. She had 34 grandchildren. 19 of my first cousins died of AIDS, including my youngest brother. So all of these mass graves that we're seeing on video, through social media, this is a repetition of something I've lived through before. And I remember sharing this story 21 years ago, and I could see that people couldn't relate to what I was talking about. People in Western countries have never experienced anything as big as this. In Africa, it happens all the time. So I think we are being given a shared experience. I don't think anybody is going to come out of this pandemic unscathed, not knowing somebody who's been affected by COVID. And it teaches us empathy. It teaches us compassion. There's a lot of learnings and lessons that we're getting out of this so-called crisis. The Chinese write the word for crisis with two symbols. One stands for opportunity, the other stands for crisis. There is a dangerous opportunity that we've been given to just remember who we are as a race, and to remember that the world's problems are not as big as we make them out to be. Right now, carbon emission has been reduced because of the canceled flights. You can see wildlife coming back into our communities, into the cities. Pollution levels are down. So it looks like chaos while we're in it, but I think we will reflect back 10, 15 years from now, and it'll all make perfect sense. The universe has got a way of stopping humanity and making us pause and reflect.
Yes, I really agree with you on that. And I think we're living in just incredibly powerful times of change and really of rebirth. And rebirth, we have to die in order to be reborn. And we're all going through this together at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, so what can Ubuntu teach us to help us move through this global situation and our global problems in general? I love that you reflect that our world's problems are not as big as we think they are. So could you share more about that?
Yeah, so imagine if we are cells of the same organism. We are an entity, we are one. There is no you, there is no me, there's only we. And the biggest teaching, the biggest lesson is to remember something as simple as that. I had started writing a speech before COVID happened, actually. I still don't have a title for it, but imagine for a moment if we could solve the world's problems like our blood heals wounds. So like I said, our white blood cells will rush to that point and heal that wound. What if we reacted and responded to each other in the same way in the world? If the 7 billion people on this planet heard that there's an earthquake in Haiti, and we each decided to donate just $1, we could restore a country in a heartbeat like this, in the blink of an eye. But it's when we all do it together as a collective. So it's a matter of remembering to going back to the collective, and it's not about individualism, but the collective whole. I think that is the biggest lesson from Ubuntu, that our power as human beings comes really when we collaborate and we come together. So what's happening now with COVID, there's some countries that don't have access to the vaccines. I get stories from family in Africa. There's nothing out there. In Zimbabwe, only 2% of people have been vaccinated. So we are going to be in the middle of another major crisis when it comes to children whose parents have died from COVID. When I left Africa, there were 16 million orphaned children because of the AIDS pandemic. It makes me shudder to think what the numbers are going to be now. And at least with AIDS, it was a choice that people were making in terms of their sexual behavior. With COVID, you could just be standing next to the wrong person in a queue and you contact the disease. So there's a lot of work to be done by all of us.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Yeah, these are really sobering numbers and images, and it's really important for us to all tune into what is happening, as you're saying, in our collective as a totality, not just our own little corners. So it's like this is very personal and also very global, both Ubuntu and what's happening in the world.
It's true, very true.
And so I know you have some really beautiful, powerful initiatives that you're working on, one of which is an app that you shared a bit about with me the last time that we talked. So could you tell about that? And you have some really fantastic ways that we can all get involved and that we can help contribute toward our global whole as a family.
Yeah, my latest project, this movement that I created, came about in 2017. I had collapsed with congestive heart failure in a rice field in Bali while I was on holiday. I'd gone through a separation, a divorce that led to hypertension, and it almost killed me. And I remembered lying in that rice field thinking of all of the communities that I support globally. So I started to travel internationally. I created a nonprofit in Zimbabwe. But wherever I traveled as a speaker, I would look for orphan children and try and support where I can. I believe the world's children are all of ours. Every single child in the world belongs to me. And if I can do anything to help, I will. And it was at that point where I thought I need to shine a light on my projects, because everything I had created would have died with me in that rice field. So I started a movement called Her Story. It was an in-person conference where I was bringing women together to share their personal stories as a way to uplift, inspire, energize each other through the sharing of stories. And every woman who came onto our platform had to bring a social impact project that she supports in her community. So it could be those unsung heroes, the woman who started a soup kitchen in the neighborhood and she's feeding the homeless. And as a collective, if we could raise funds to support that project, we could do that. Or if that woman didn't have a project of her own that inspired her, she could plug right into the 200 projects that I had already initiated throughout Southeast Asia, the Caribbean, and in Africa. So that's how I launched in July 2017. In 6 months, I had 10 in-person events in Las Vegas. So I started in the US. I had a conference in Wellington, in Sydney, Australia. Beginning of 2020, I went to Norway, London. I came back to New York. And then COVID happened. Everything had to stop. 15 events were canceled for the first quarter of 2020. I then put this platform online, and we are scaling faster now as an online conference than we could have done with in-person events. I realized that there is a need for people to connect. There's a lot of sadness and loneliness with what's happening with COVID. People are in isolation, they're on their own. So women have been stepping up to share their stories. And so I decided to create an app. And the app is called the Diversity Connector. So imagine for a moment if a woman in Africa could design a beautiful tribal necklace, take a picture through this app like WhatsApp, and send us the picture, and we put that picture on our website and expose her work to a designer in New York. And that piece of jewelry is picked for New York Fashion Week. And that woman in a village in Africa gets paid for what that piece of jewelry is worth. And the money is transmitted back onto her phone. So women in Africa are poor, not because we're lazy. We are poor because we don't get access to the global marketplace to transact and sell our products and our goods. A lot of our product is bought for peanuts. People come to Africa, they buy in our markets, not the value that the work is worth. A lot of African jewelry are pieces of art. So that's the vision that I have. And then imagine if the same woman gets an opportunity to do a lecture for students who are studying sustainable fashion in a fashion school in Paris. And she shows them the traditional dyes that she uses, the rocks and the stones she uses to color her jewelry, and teach them how to create fashion, but in a sustainable way. So there's a lot of knowledge that can come out of Africa that is unknown, a lot of ancient wisdoms like the Ubuntu philosophy. I've been doing lectures online to universities, to corporates. So I'm writing a book on Ubuntu leadership. The principles of Ubuntu can be applied in so many different ways. And I'm sitting on a couch in New Zealand. I get anywhere from 5 to 35,000 euro for a 1-hour lecture. So that's what this app does, but it doesn't just help women in developing countries. It helps women globally. Women in the United States are coming onto our platform and sharing their stories. We've had fantastic women who started businesses, and they share the story of how they started this enterprise. And then they can teach other women through workshops on how they can do the same. We've had women who've been raped. We coach and mentor women to tell their story from a position of strength, so that whatever has happened to you doesn't define who you are. And your story becomes the light at the end of the tunnel for somebody else who's going through a similar challenge. We've had women who've had health challenges, who have survived cancer. I am a survivor of heart failure, and I'm thriving now. So we want each story to be uplifting, to be inspiring. We've even introduced a creative section to the platform where you can express yourself in a creative way. So if you sing, you can sing. If you dance, you can dance. And it lifts the energy of our platform. So that's the Her Story movement. And it's literally turning into a platform that will one day compete with TED. The TED tagline is ideas worth spreading. Our tagline is inspired ideas ignited and implemented. We're looking for people with inspiring stories that can spark a flame in somebody else's heart and get them to take action and learn from you and create something in their own communities. So that's the Her Story movement in a nutshell. And we are inviting women from all over the world to join us. So we have initiated quite a few projects in Zimbabwe, throughout Southeast Asia, throughout the whole continent of Africa, the Caribbean. And maybe I could share a couple of those projects with the community so people know what we are doing.
Yeah, I would love for you to. I also just want to say I had chills pretty much the whole time you were sharing there. Thank you for this. It is so inspiring to know that this is happening. And also just let us know how we can be involved and where to go and that kind of thing. And we'll include the links below the interview.
Okay. So I just recently won the New Zealand, Australia Women in Tech Awards for the development of this app. So I'm looking for investors who can come on board to help us build the platform. And the platform will come with a coaching program. So if you're a speaker, you want to learn how to craft your signature speech, you get access to coaching through this app. You're paired up with an accountability partner, so you can meet regularly, you can schedule to meet and practice your speeches. You get access to practice the speech during our conferences as well, so you can perfect your art of speaking through this app. Then you're going to get opportunities to speak. So we are now looking for corporate companies to offer our women speaking opportunities in their organizations. We can go into organizations and facilitate workshops in diversity, inclusion, and belonging, which is another big niche where corporates are looking for women to come into their workspaces and talk around these topics. So I also have a course that all of our community can tap into, learn how to run these diversity, inclusion, and belonging workshops. So that's one side of things. Some of the projects that we've initiated. In Zimbabwe, little girls don't go to school if they have a period in rural parts of Zimbabwe. Our government is not importing menstrual products that the poor can afford. So girls don't go to school. So what we are trying to do is to create a cooperative where we train the mothers how to make reusable sanitary pads. The pads come in a kit, a small little bag that's handmade with 7 pads for every day of the week. They come with a small menstrual chart so the girls learn how to track their days and predict when their period is coming. We are putting in this bag 3 bars of soap and 3 pairs of panties. Little girls get raped in Africa because they don't have underwear. So it's things as simple as a pair of panties that can prevent a child from being raped. So that's one of our projects. I shared this story when we launched in Las Vegas, and there's an amazing woman who's based in Riverside, California. Her name is Jerry O'Lyon. For a whole year, Jerry was working with her church, making these reusable sanitary pads for girls in a school in Guatemala. So she took on our project and she brought people from her church to her home and converted her garage into a workshop. This was just before COVID. They made 1,000 kits that are sitting in California right now that we are trying to raise money to ship to Zimbabwe. She's also raised money and she's bought us sewing machines. She's bought us overlockers, the fabrics, the threads, everything we need to set up the cooperative. So if anybody out there is inspired to help with that project, we'll share the link where you can go onto our website and donate. It's small, simple things like that that make a difference in Africa. And we're really calling on people to help us to initiate that project. So that's one aspect. The other thing that I'm doing is based around education and healthcare. Again, in Zimbabwe, our rural schools are dilapidated. Our government has not touched the rural schools in 35 years. So for those of you who don't know, Zimbabwe lived under a dictatorship for 35 years. And that dictatorship collapsed about 3 years ago, but we're back in the hands of yet another dictator right now. So I am trying to rehabilitate the rural schools in Zimbabwe. I took over the primary school in my own village, and we are rebuilding the school by training the community how to make the bricks we need to rebuild the infrastructure. So we give people a microloan of $50. They can buy 5 bags of cement. They can make 1,000 bricks that we buy back at 25 cents a piece. So every household is making $250 US. They do pay back the loan. So it's a hand up, not a handout. And we've started all kinds of initiatives in this village to empower people with financial resources. The average person in Zimbabwe lives on the equivalent of 30 US cents a month. Zimbabwe is a country without a currency. We don't even have physical cash. We are using US dollars. So unless you have children who live overseas who send you foreign currency, people don't have access to cash. So people are dying of AIDS in 2021 because of poverty and politics. Again, our government is not distributing the free drugs that World Health is distributing in Africa for free. The medication is available in a hospital 40 kilometers away from my village. It costs $2 to get on the bus to get free medication at the end of each month. People don't have $2 to do that. So we're trying to build a small clinic. We're going to build this clinic by getting a container, a 40-foot container into this community. So I've been blocked to build a clinic for the last 20 years. There's a lot of corruption in Africa. You have to bribe corrupt government officials to get anything done. I am allowed to work in education. That's why I'm rebuilding the school. So I came up with a creative idea. It's what I'm calling a Trojan Horse. And the Trojan Horse is, I have been collecting books, physical books, to build a library in my community. I gave speeches in primary schools all over Wellington. And in 90 days, I would tell the principal of the school to tell the children to bring any books they don't want when I came in to give a speech. I collected 65,000 books. So I have a 40-foot container sitting in the harbor in Wellington. It's ready to be shipped to Africa. And when that container goes into this village, we will empty out the books and build a library. We will then refurbish the container, put windows and doors, air conditioning, and turn the container into a clinic.
Oh, wow. Instant
infrastructure. I don't have to apply for a government permit. It's going to be a private clinic where we hire a private nurse. We will buy her a car and stock that clinic with just the generic drugs we can buy in a supermarket. But once a month, if she has transport, she can go and pick up the World Health workers 40 kilometers away and bring them to the community so they distribute the free ARV drugs that are available in the country. So that will cut out the transport costs and service the community as well. So those are the 3 projects I want to share. There's another 200 of them, but if anybody is interested to find out more, we will share my details. It would be good to have your community join us.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness, I'm so moved by all that you've shared here, and I have a lot of emotion coming up actually around it. It's just so powerful what you're doing, and the creativity and the outside of the box thinking. I love when you said the container is going to be the clinic. It's so beautiful how you're making all this happen, you know, no matter what the obstacles may be. And that in and of itself is such a beautiful message for us today.
And one more thing, if there is anybody here who is of African descent, or if you know anyone of African descent, I am reaching out to people like me, the people who left Africa, who are living in the first world, just to remind you that we are the help Africa is waiting for. We can't wait for World Vision or Save the Children. We need to go back to our communities, each and every single one of us, and do something to help. We're in the middle of a huge, huge crisis with COVID.
Thank you for sharing this message. Thank you. Sorry. No apologies needed. So powerful. And this is, I mean, you are just living Ubuntu in every possible way in your life and modeling this for us so beautifully.
There's a lot of work to be done in the world right now. And it's not just Africa. Every single country in the world is affected. And it's always the poorest of the poor who are hit the hardest. So I would just like everybody to remember that. Do something to help if you can.
Yes. Yes, and so as part of the conference here, we are going to participate in fundraising for your project to bring the menstrual products to the girls in Zimbabwe. So there will be a link right below this interview for all of you who are moved and who would like to donate. You can donate in any amount that you would like using that link. And also Sacred Planet will donate a percentage of our proceeds from Into the Mythica toward that project as well. So we hope that we can really raise a lot of money for you to get those shipped over to Zimbabwe and get them to where they really need to be.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you again for allowing me to share my story. You know, sometimes it's not about money that makes a difference in the world. It's one person saying, I have a community. I can share your story, like what you've done with this interview. It's not always about money. Sometimes it's ideas that I get from other people. The idea to collect the books came from a young girl from Boston. I was speaking at a university in Boston, and her name was Alexandra Venegas. She was 23 at the time, African-American, single mom. She had 3 kids. And I gave a lecture at her university, and she came up to me afterwards and she said to me, Getrude, I just feel I need to help you, but I don't have money. And I said, Alex, it's not about money that changes the world. She waited until 300 people had left. I was selling my book after this conference. And I said, if you pray, go and pray. If you meditate, meditate about it. But I feel you've got a gift for me. About 3 months later, the professor who invited me to speak at that university called me. And she said, Gertrude, you won't believe what Alex has done. She put bins in every single lecture theater on campus. And she told the professors to tell their students who had children to bring any books they didn't want. In 30 days, she collected 5,000 books. And she has a library named after her in my village in Zimbabwe. So it's not about money sometimes. It's ideas. There could be somebody who's listening right now who's really creative with applying for grants or who has ideas. Ideas, that's where the magic happens. So it's not always about money. It's your ideas that can help us as well. So I'm really excited when I get the opportunity to share this.
Yes, because then these ideas that you're sharing ripple out through everybody listening and all of their creativity and their insight. So yes, so everybody really tune in and see what you may have to offer and what creativity you may want to bring to everything we've been talking about here today. It's so beautiful. Yes, well, before we close, is there one more piece of African wisdom that you would like to share with us today before we end?
I would just want to remind everybody that the world's problems are not as big as we make them out to be. They're very simple. And especially if we remember that we are an organism, that we are one, and that if one of us is not okay, we're all not okay. If you take anything away from today, please remember that, because it's really a game changer in terms of how you frame the issues that are in your own community, the issues that are happening in the world. They're not that big. They become small when we each do a little something to help. In Africa, we have a proverb, how did the ant eat the elephant? And it's one bite at a time. So yes. That's how we solve the world's problems, just chipping away at them one little piece at a time. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of this sharing wisdom, inspiration that you offered here today. And you have, in addition to everything else that you've already shared with us, you have a wonderful and inspiring free gift for us, which is guidance for landing your first TED Talk. So for everyone out there with a voice that you're ready to share your message, this is the perfect gift for you. So Getrude, would you like to say a few words about that?
So you'll get access to the introduction of the coaching program I was talking about. So if you're a speaker and you want to find out how to craft your own signature speech, it's a program for thought leaders, those people who feel they've got an idea that's worth spreading. So the link is there. You can download the first few videos and really start to think about your ideas, how you can get them out into the world in a really beautiful way. So enjoy it, and you'll get access to me. You'll get a free 1-hour consultation with me as well.
Oh, so beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that gift. And again, for all you've shared here. It's such a pleasure to talk with you. And I want to encourage everybody listening to go and check out these links below, check out Getrude's work and that free gift, and especially the chance to donate to help the girls in Zimbabwe to have what they need to be able to go to school. It's really such a beautiful project. Yes, so thank you again, Getrude.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you. And thank you for everybody for listening.